So if you live in Texas, the directive to physicians, or sometimes called directive to physicians and family, or surrogates, or sometimes called a living will. This tells your doctors what you want if you're facing a serious or irreversible medical condition. So today I'm going to walk you through the Texas form in plain English, step by step. And if you purchased my book, Estate Planning in Texas, this is one of the downloadable forms you get access to. So this video will help you understand exactly what you're filling out. So this video, it's for educational purposes, not legal advice, but my goal is to make this form much less intimidating so you can make informed decisions. And this is the same directive to physicians form that buyers of my book can download through the free access link. So if you have the form open on your computer while you watch this, you'll be able to follow along line by line. All right, let me pop it up on the screen here, and away we go. All right, so here is your directive to physicians and family or surrogates. So at the top, this is again, this is strictly from the Texas statute where the legislature created a form, making it easier for people to create it, for healthcare providers to honor it because they're all familiar with the form that the Texas legislature created. So that's what this is. All right, at the top, you'll see some instructions. You should read through those. But really, when we get started, it's right here. So the form is created so that you can download it and then print it, and then really just write in initial or kind of write in your own name or names where you need to write things in. So your name would go right here if you were to fill this out. And then you'd read this. And then there's really two different places where you are required to initial one of two places. So this first one is if in the judgment of your physician, you're suffering from a terminal condition from which you're expected to die within 6 months, even with available life-sustaining treatment, then you can initial here if you want to and request that all treatments other than those needed to keep me comfortable or be discontinued. Or you can request that you be kept alive in this terminal condition using available life-sustaining treatment. And then there's this provision about hospice care in there. So you'll initial one of those. I think most people, again, what most people do, it may not be right in your circumstances, but most people who complete a living will, they really have the desire that, they call it pull the plug. They're like, if there's no chance of recovery, I can't have any quality of life, remove the machines. And people with that mindset typically initial this first statement here where they request that all treatments other than those needed to keep you comfortable be discontinued. And then there's a similar statement next where if in the judgment of your physician, you're suffering with an irreversible condition so that I cannot care for myself or make decisions for myself and am expected to die without life-sustaining treatment, then you can request that all those treatments, be discontinued or withheld, or you can request that you be kept alive. Again, I think what most people choose to do because if they just don't want those expenses, they don't want that emotional burden on the family. If they are suffering and there is an irreversible condition and they can't care for themselves and they're expected to die without the life-sustaining treatment, then most people initial this top one here. But again, it's a personal decision on your part. And then here's a place where you can write in additional requests. I would say the most popular additional requests. Some people feel like, well, take me off the machines, but don't remove these artificially administered nutrition and hydration. This is food and water. This is really IVs and feeding tubes. So some people feel like, you can take me off the machines, but I don't want you to remove nutrition and hydration. You may want to take a look at any particular religious beliefs you may have. Some people make their decisions in accordance with their religion. So that's just one of those things that some people have some specific instructions about. But you do have to be careful when you do write in certain things because you may write things and think they apply to one set of circumstances where they maybe apply to another set of circumstances that you weren't thinking. So be real careful and don't put in these additional requests without serious, thought and discussion. All right, and then here's a provision where there's several provisions about hospice care, but I'm going to jump to this one that says, if I do not have a medical power of attorney, Well, if you do purchase my book, you'll get free access to downloadable forms. And one of the forms that you'll get access to is a Texas specific medical power of attorney. A lot of people confuse the living will with the medical power of attorney. We're talking about here in this living will is, you are in that profound comatose state or irreversible condition, no chance of recovery. That's where you state your wishes because you have the right to make your decisions. And by signing a living will, you're making your decisions really about life support machines. The medical power of attorney is generally for other medical situations. Maybe you're in a surgery and you're not able to communicate with your physicians. You're not on life support. Maybe someone needs to go get your medical record. So that medical power of attorney is for all those medical situations where you're not necessarily on life support, but still there needs to be someone that you've designated to help make medical decisions when you can't. So if you do use the downloadable Texas specific medical power of attorney that you'll get when you purchase my book, you won't need to complete this. This is only if you don't have a medical power of attorney, but every adult should have a medical power of attorney. So you don't need to list additional names here. And then there's a few other provisions here, which you ought to read. I don't want to just go through this whole thing. And then this is where you'd sign it and date it and put your city, county, state of residence. And then also real important is the execution requirements, execution meaning signing requirements. So they're very particular about who can and cannot be a witness. So this is not something you can just sign at the dinner table with your family and pass it around and have your children witness it. Because, for example, the witness may not be entitled to any part of the estate, may not have a claim against the estate, can't be your doctor, can't be an employee of your doctor, and really shouldn't be an employee of the healthcare facility where you're being cared for. So be real careful about those witness requirements. And I will say it's probably worth, some people are concerned that the plug may be pulled too early. And so they think that, and this is a joke here, but not going that far, but they think that, boy, if I get a headache, they're going to take everything off. So you probably should read through some definitions that they have here. So there's a definition of irreversible condition. There's a definition of life-sustaining treatment, and there's a definition of terminal condition. You want to read through all of that so you can really get yourself educated as to what this form means. This form is really, really important. So really important here that you make informed decisions. All right. So if you would like that Texas specific estate planning form, including all the forms, including the directive to physicians, the medical power of attorney, and several will options, along with some explanations in plain English. You can find all that inside my book, Estate Planning in Texas. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. And quite frankly, you see it right there on the screen. And quite frankly, if you're watching from another state, I've been producing more and more state-specific resources because estate planning really does depend on your state's laws. So if you want clear, plain English guidance like this for your state, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be rolling out more in the coming weeks and months. All right, have a great day.